You all here. I take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt welcome to our convener, Ms. Sanjini Datta, CPD expert English Cambridge, and Mr. Guru Prasad sir, the Assistant Territory Manager, International Education, Cambridge University Press and Assessment, India Private Limited. And I respectfully welcome our founder sir, Chairman sir, uh, Trustee ma'am, Principals, HOE sir, Vice Principal ma'am, in charges, English HOD, and all my dear teachers of English department. And this day marks a very important and a special day for us as we all gather together to have a teaching empowerment session in global English from our resource person and from a resource person for planning lesson plans, for planning the lessons, usage of resources and activities which should be planned for making the lessons more experiential. And before going into the session, it is indeed my honor to introduce the resource person, Ms. Sanjini Datta, academic coordinator and trainer with Cambridge University Press and Assessment, who has been part of the education field for more than 12 years. Ma'am is involved in the Cambridge Professional Development Qualifications as a program leader in teaching and learning. Madam's specialty is in developing coherent and diverse teaching strategies that can make the classroom space dynamic and interactive for both the teachers and the learners. Now I request our dignitaries on the stage to felicitate our trainer and the coordinator, sir. And I request our resource person to accept the honoring. And I request a coordinator, sir, to head the honoring. Thank you all. Thank, thank you, sir. Shall we start now? Yes. And now it's the time to go into the session. Please, ma'am.
A very good morning to all of you. Thank you for the wonderful, warm welcome. And I really appreciate the opportunity today to conduct this training session. It's heartwarming to see all of you gathered here on a Sunday morning and being enthusiastic. So thank you all for your time and the enthusiasm. We will try to stick to the time schedule so that I don't want to infringe on anyone's personal commitments on this Sunday. So I'll just keep a note of the breaks and everything. So we'll proceed accordingly. But a very big thank you to all of you and my heartfelt appreciation. Um, what we would like to start with for the training session to be successful is an activity that as teachers we can also use in the classroom, which is called the parking lot. So if each of you, and we would use this whiteboard for our parking lot activity. So if each of you write down two expectations that you have from this session, or two queries that you have right in the beginning of the session, and if you can put those sticky notes right in this column, as the session is going on, if some of those queries are clarified, then we can move it to the other column. And if they are not clarified, I would personally take the opportunity at the end of the session to ensure that all the queries are clarified. So if you can just start with this small activity, which we call the parking lot. So on the sticky notes on your table, if you can just write down two queries or expectations or something that you're expecting from this session. So we'll have a very clear idea whether those are getting clarified as we are progressing through the session. And in addition to that, we'll also start something which is called a mini whiteboard. So on this A4 sheet paper in front of you, if you can just write your name, grade that you teach, and put it on the table, that would be great. So every time I'm going around, I know I can customize my queries according to the grade that you're teaching. So that would be great. This is a mini whiteboard technique also we can use for our students many times if they have to answer any queries or anything. And if one person from the group can just go and put all the. Before we continue, I would like to just uh, talk a little bit about my experience as a trainer. And I have been dealing with the Cambridge board since 2013, right after my master's. And now I'm also doing my PhD from Uppsala University in Sweden. So between the time on and off, I'm involved with the Cambridge board. And as I've explored Cambridge more, I can really see that it really helps the teacher with the resources and everything. So one of the primary focus today would be how the global English resources can help the teachers to really explore the curriculum and make the teaching and learning space interactive and dynamic for the students. Ma'am, can I put, you're ready with the query? Yes. Yes, yes, absolutely. So we already have some really interesting questions coming in, which would really help us to address them as well. So if one person from each group can collect the notes and you can just put it on the board. So while this process is going on, I would just like you to just have a quick look. And if anyone can think of the riddle or the puzzle and can come up with the word that you think, what am I? If you don't know me, you'll not miss me. I'm all around you, but hard to be. If you're looking, reach out strongly. When you've found me, don't let it go. Share me wisely, but make me grow. I'm the best friend you'll ever know. What am I? If anyone has any clues, please feel free to bounce the response across the room. Knowledge is, I heard knowledge, so I think that's a very, very good response. Anything else? Any other response? Book, knowledge. Any other response? Skills. Any other response? Learning, communication, students, self learning. Okay. Any other response? So, thank you all for the responses. The main idea of this exercise was we had different responses and we could see all of them fit into this mode. So, the idea is when we are teaching global English and when we are activating the thoughts from the students, there is no right or wrong way. There can be multiple responses that can be accepted, and why I can tell you confidently that as teachers you can initiate this process because the assessment encourages differentiation. Many times we are scared to initiate differentiation because assessments do not encourage differentiation. So Cambridge board, even at the IGCSE and AS level, the way the assessment is done, it really, really encourages differentiation. So without any hesitation, we can always implement differentiation and different responses while we are teaching the curriculum itself. So that is a very, very important part. I can see some very interesting questions that we have. Some pertinent questions like how can we make the classroom space dynamic as well without using digital resources as well? By the end of the session, what we hope to achieve is how Global English encourages a communicative approach. What we want our learners to be is more confident in using Global English and how lesson planning is supported in the Cambridge resource itself. And again, after each session and part, we would give you some time for reflection so that we answer any queries or communication that is happening. This is something we use. Anyone has heard of this technique? Traffic lights or RAG? Anyone has heard of this technique? We use this as a part of formative assessment a lot in Cambridge. So this is, and we would make use of this predominantly during the session as well. So this is a very simple but effective tool of formative assessment. We use this strategy a lot. So with RAG, traffic light, when we conduct a session and when we overcome a session, we can just ask the students where they are. So the ones who raise the red color, we know that they need more help. The ones who are, they understood the concept, but some clarifications are needed. And the ones who raise green, they are good to go. So sometimes the help shouldn't also come from the teacher only. So the ones who are green can actually help the amber and the teacher can help the red. So we can also organize activities that the ones who are really, really clear with their concept, we can organize some peer feedback or some activities where the green learners can address the amber and the teacher can address the red. So this is called the traffic light or RAG as a part of formative assessment that we use in Cambridge a lot. You can use this in the classroom effectively. Cambridge English as a second language curriculum framework. Now, at the beginning of the session, I would like to state that I would try to do as less talking as possible because, as John Holt said, the talking teacher is the worst kind of teacher possible. So, he will try to do a lot of activity, hands on activity, so that we understand how the curriculum can be initiated in the classroom space itself. But just a brief introduction to what global English really is, because one of the primary queries that we have, what's the difference between global English and English, or primary English or normal English? So global English is specifically addressed for learners who are using English in school, who are using English in other subjects as well, but not primarily using the language at home. So, Cambridge English as a second language empowers learners to communicate confidently, and critical thinking skills is embedded. This is very important because when we'll explore the teacher resources and the learner resources more effectively, we will see how the critical thinking skills are embedded in the resource itself. This is, anyone has seen the cycle before? Anyone has seen the cycle before? Okay, so in Cambridge, we call this RISA. These are the Cambridge learner attributes that we try to inculcate. So, confident, responsible, reflective, innovative, engaged. Uh, Responsible, when we talk of responsible, learners take responsibility of their own learning. We'll just delve a little bit into metacognition, being self aware of their own work, of their writing skills. Not everything should be coming from the teachers. When we talk of being innovative, we see learners actively exploring and experimenting with new language. So they are not just being in their secure space, they are challenging themselves, they are exploring new concepts as well. And of course, confidence is key because they are able to confidently communicate. And this is not limited to English. There are times when, even in other subjects, that is why language awareness is required. Sometimes the teachers are not getting the response they want from the learners. Now, for us to think whether they are, it's because of a lack of knowledge, or whether they do not have the effective communication skill to actually communicate their response, that is something we need to think about, and that is language awareness. So language, there's a misconception that it's only required for English. It's actually required for all the other subjects as well, because that leads to the holistic development. So confidence is key. Engaged, we cannot do anything without keeping the learners engaged. And that brings us to one of the queries here. What are the activities that can be structured around that does not require the use of a lot of digital resources as well? And reflective, learners develop the skills to plan, monitor, and evaluate their own thinking. This is a key skill and cycle of metacognition. And after, in the second part of the session, I would like to delve a little bit into active learning and metacognition as well. When we talk of language, Cambridge curriculum and any language structure divides the four key skills in language: reading, listening, speaking, writing, into a category of receptive and productive. So, can we have some response being bounced at us as what are the receptive skills and what are the productive skills? What can be the receptive skills and what can be the productive skills? Right. So if they are able to read, so reading is a receptive skill. Communicating, that is speaking, is again a productive skill. And in listening and writing, how can we categorize the receptive and the productive? Right. So listening again is a receptive skill, and writing again is a productive skill. So this is how the entire structure is divided. The receptive skills are reading and listening, because then the learners are receiving the information, and the productive skill is structured around speaking and writing. So this is how it's embedded in the curriculum as well. So this is something that you will be seeing a lot in this session, which we'll have. So any queries, please feel free to just stop me and ask if there is any queries. And as the session is progressing, I might not be saying this again. If any further questions develop, you can always put it on a note and also put it in the parking lot. When we come to Cambridge Global English, it's basically written for learners who are learning and studying in English. The cross curricular themes and skill based integrated approach is used for the learners to have a lot of fluency. Let's have a quick look at what the learner book looks like. Now, one of the things that we see, and sometimes as teachers also we make the mistake of treating the learner book and the teacher resource separately. The learner book in most cases is kept very simple, because the learners do not need to be overwhelmed with a lot of information. So in the activities that we have, the activities are kept very simple. But when we'll come to the teacher resource, which you'll see in your handouts, all the necessary detailing is embedded in the teacher resource. So it really, really empowers the teachers. So over here, we can see a very simple activity that gives the starter intention. Describe our feelings about a first time experience. So it gives us a clue and it gives us an idea about how a lot of things can be used and described. So this is what the learner book looks like. And this is something that we use in Cambridge a lot. It's not a curriculum with parts. We call this components. So the teacher resource, the learner book, and the workbook are all embedded as a component together. This is the global English structure that is given. There are 9 units of 7 lessons. If you see the scaffolding of the lesson, it's very interesting. This is how the scaffolding of the lesson is done. The topic is introduced. After that, there is development of the topic. And then we talk about it, and there is a language development that is happening. Then they are asked to write about it, model text, language, reading and responding, project challenge, and review. I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding any of the stage as we explore the learner book more. This is the teacher resource book. In the teacher resource book, you will see that everything is stated. So that is why we say the teacher resource book and the learner book goes hand in hand. So for every unit, the learning intention that is required from the unit is embedded in the teacher resource book itself. Then you have the success criteria that is mapping out what the learners want to reach, where the learners want to reach, what the learners want to get out of that session. So the success criteria is very important. Misconceptions that might arise in a lesson, how to identify the misconception, how to overcome it, everything is embedded in the teacher resource book. We will do an activity which will help you to explore and use the teacher resource in an effective way. And in today's session, through Global English, we will be covering these aspects of Cambridge learning. One is active learning. Anyone has heard of the concept of active learning? Active learning, okay. Assessment for learning, differentiation, language awareness, metacognition, skills for life. all the Cambridge resources embed these key skills, and it's part of the key skills that is required from the Cambridge learner. Now, having said that, I don't want the teachers to be overwhelmed. None of these things have to be introduced separately by the teachers in the classroom. It's all embedded in the resources. All you have to do is identify this is active learning, this is language awareness, this is the metacognition task that we are giving the learners. So everything is there in the resources, just the identification will be necessary. When we look at the learner book, we can see that a lot of fun activities are covered in the learner book itself, and how we can structure them around that will be important. I'll start with a very simple activity. I'm giving you a word, and I want you to come up with, as a group, two words related to that. So the word is adventure. Adventure. Two words related to the word adventure. Two words related, and if you can make a note of it in the group. Two words related to the word adventure. So do we have two words related to adventure?
Courage, impact, moral.
Is build up with those words any sense of adventure, personal experience, or any classroom experience as well, using the words that you have come up with. And if you can just discuss it with your group. So I have seen like some groups have written excursions, if any sense of adventure had come out from the student excursions that had happened, or your personal vacations or adventure, and if you can just discuss and share it with your group as well. Is it clear? You've come up with the words? Yes, right? So if you can just use these words to just reflect on any personal sense of experience that you have experienced around adventure using these words, and you can share with each other. Is the activity clear, ma'am? Yes. So we can have a minute or two more for this, and if as a group you can share some of the experiences that you have discussed, that would be great around adventure. Yes. Handout extracts, ma'am. You can start distributing it. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, no, for the primary, they have to get to extract and hand out. Like the lower secondary, they have to give the two.
Yes, yes, yes. This is comfortable.
Break time 11. 1:30.
One thing. Sharing the experiences. So I think many of the groups are already done with discussing their experiences. So if we can just have the group sharing in just a few lines their experiences discussed.
Namaste, ma'am. I've taken a topic of bold.
Right,
Like, I'll be handling what are all the challenges I face.
right,
In front of anybody, I'll stand boldly and I'll talk.
right.
So I take this opportunity to say that.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so much.
much.
Thank you so much for sharing that. If you can pass it to the next group.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, dear teachers. I'm going to share about my experience in Maldives. Around 2 years back, I was in Maldives. when I heard from my husband, he got a job in Maldives. I was really very excited, and after some things I was searching Google's, I found restaurants. When I entered Maldives, my excitement, everything gone totally. Where the restaurants will be different and the staying place will be different. I have to go three to after getting to the Malay city. I have to go to 3 to 4 4 hours in the water. It was the waves will be too high. I was flying in this water, and for food and all, we have to struggle lots. When the rain comes, the boat will not come, and the boat will stay in this mid of the sea. We small boats, and they have to go and get the foods. Only we'll get big fishes. That's it. For others thing, it was really something. When I returned from there, I was holding 5 months baby in my home. I really got scared of coming to this India because the water is too high. So 3 to 4 months baby in the womb, I got really shocked. It was really a good, and both will be there in my experience. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
ma'am, for sharing that experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And my experience with my grade 4 children, when I narrate the horror story, there was a man who was staying in a big building alone in the night. When I narrate the story, even my students make me to a great adventure to me, because we did the theater activity and making the and hearing the tuck 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 sound. They all have make ask the teachers to make a great adventure. Thank
Thank
you,
you
ma'am.
so much, ma'am, for sharing that.
Good morning to one and all present here. I'm Deepika from Chennai. Actually, I had a great experience last month. I went to Kerala. The place where I visited is Kumuli. The trekking we started in the morning and we reached at 6 o'clock. The whole night we stayed in the forest. So there is no power, no restroom facility and nothing. With the use of torch, we stayed the whole night. And it's very excitement and given and also a good experience.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Good morning, everybody. I just we were mocking. My life is full of adventure, so I will just share one of those. Um, 2 years back, we had gone to Rishikesh, and first time I tried river rafting. So it was a very adventurous experience. And we say no, we grow old, but then we again have to undergo the same cycle with our kids. So my daughter wanted to do bungee jumping, and she was saying, Mama, you can do it, because I have narrated her story that I used to jump from like 16 feet board and all. So she was saying, but as I realized, no, I cannot, I could not dare to jump. So I feel that yes, now it is a taking a circle is coming down. Again have to pick up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, fine morning to everyone. Actually, I am from village and I am well experienced in swimming. One day, what happened? We were swimming in the well. A child was sitting. Nearly 5 years old child was sitting on the top of the well. Unfortunately, by looking at how we are jumping, the child jumped inside, and the child went into the well. Actually, suddenly I jumped inside and saved the child. That was one of my thrilling experience that I had. Thank you.
Happy morning. Good morning, one and all gathered here. I am Mrs. Carnegie from TC Kud Road. Daily we are facing the physical activities period in our kids. It is great adventure to us. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. When I was studying in college, we went to the tour to Kodaikanal. All of my friends had a bet that we should get off the train in each station and to sit on the platform, any of the chair in the platform. When it was Tanjore station, it was around 4 o'clock in the morning. I sat in all the stations. That was the last, I think. After that is Madurai. So when I get off, it was somewhat distance from the gate which I was getting off, and I sat, and suddenly the train started moving. So I was running to the train because it was 4 in the morning. I had nothing in my hand, and I jumped into the train. It was the greatest thing. After that, I'm not trying these kind of activities. This is the one fun activity. It started as a fun, but it is the thrilling experience I had.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. When last year students, when I was taking classes for second standard, when I was narrating a story, one boy started to crying. It was a very interesting story. Not obeying that calf will not obey the words for elephant. So what happened? I was telling the story that that elephant is mother didn't obey, the calf didn't obey. So you should not do that like that. So I was explaining that one boy started to crying. That was a very great challenge and experience. What happened? I thought something happened to that boy, so I went to him and I asked him, what happened? Why are you crying? No ma'am, that elephant, I will not be like that calf, ma'am. That was a very great challenge for me, ma'am. I faced, even I thought, oh, that also reaching the children very, so that was a very that was my experience from there.
Right. Thank you so much.
I am Ravdi from Porayur. Every year we are facing a children. It's very, very different kinds of task for us. Only one boy. I am going to share about one boy in last set from last set. I had explored a child who didn't take any interest in the graduation day and any competition also. Even though I am taking class also, he didn't join with me also. But he on that day, graduation day, he was a very quite great experience on that day. What happened now? Every children are saying about what I thought. No, that dialogue every children are saying, but what he is thinking, everyone is saying. But ma'am, ma'am didn't say ask me to say anything. Why? He started crying at the last, ma'am. I want to speak, ma'am. I don't know. The program ended. No, ma'am, I want to speak. But you don't know now how you are going to speak. No, no, ma'am, I want to speak. Suddenly he catch the mic and he started speaking. It's a very, very great experience for me. And that is a very uh, thrilling experience.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you. Anyone else who's left who wants to share the experience? So, can we have a round of applause for the wonderful experiences shared in the room? Now, what we just did is the absolute attribute of the ABC classroom. So rather than me talking about it, what we just did around the room, as language teachers, we activated the thought with the word adventure. We asked you to build a story and an experience around it. And the consolidation happened with sharing that and the learning experience that happened. So, this is a very important part of active learning, and we call it the ABC classroom routine. So, in language, especially in global English, we can use this routine effectively to help the students build up on the concept, activate them, then help them to build up and consolidate. This is where the getting started activity in the learner book is very important. I can tell as educators, sometimes we ignore the getting started activity. This is just to enunciate that the getting started activity can be a very good way to activate the thought process, to activate the discussion, and then help them to build up on that. So that can be quite effective when that's used. Now, this is something we also call in active learning. It's called active questioning. This is by no means my quote. This is by an educator called Dylan William. If you're interested in looking up his videos, it's available on YouTube. What Dylan William talks about is when we are questioning the students, especially around language, most of the time it's going like back and forth, like a table tennis. The question is posed by the teacher, the answer is coming from the students, so it's constantly happening back and forth. So over here we are referring to pose the question, pause, give them time for reflection, pounce on someone, and then bounce the idea to the other. We also used the bouncing bit right now when we were just passing the mic on to the other groups as well. So pause, bounce, bounce. There is almost a rhythm to it. Some of the teachers just get it as strategy, pause, bounce, bounce, and then they go at it. So what it helps is the no hands approach. The no hands approach is key because what happens is the learners, we always talk about this effectively, the no hands approach. Students can raise their hands to ask questions but not to answer. The no hands approach is very effective. That is why we use the pause, pounce, bounce. You pounce on a learner, and if the learner is always saying, why me, why are you, you can always use the fishbowl strategy. You can ask them to write their names at the beginning of the class, put it in a bowl, and then as the class is progressing, you can just take out the name and you can pose questions to them. So the fishbowl strategy can always be used to ask questions. And this is something that will help us to understand how the Cambridge curriculum is structured. We always refer to formative assessment. So I can see a lot of the books, we'll explore the books, how formative assessment is embedded in the learning. So this is a very interesting quote by Paul Black. When the cook tastes the soup, that's formative assessment. When the customer tastes the soup, that's summative assessment. So can I have, as a group, you reflect 1 minute, who is the cook, who is the soup, and who is the customer? So we can just discuss, and if you can just let us know who is the cook, who is the soup, and who can be the customer. Okay. So as a group, if you're ready to give your answer, we can have the answers going around. If you're ready, please feel free to give your answer. Who is the cook, who is the soup, and who is the customer? Okay, so from this group, we had the cook is the teacher, the soup is the content, and the students are the customer. From this, same? Same? Any group has a different answer to this? Any group? Everyone heard the answer. They said that the cook is the teacher, the content is the soup, and the students are the customer. Yes, sir. You wanted to say something? Yes.
I feel soup is the student. Uh, the cook has to test know whether it is fine or not. So that is the teacher. Soup is cook is a teacher, soup is a student, and customer may be the final result, or the parents accepting the final result. Or
Okay, okay, okay. 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 So we have a different opinion now. Anyone has another opinion? Any other opinion? Yes. Yes, please feel free. Yes. The cook is the book, the soup.
Ma'am, according to us, cook is the parent,
Okay.
and soup is maybe a student, and customer maybe customer may be student, and soup is maybe teacher. So parents, what they had, it is a little bit. The students have to get more than that, so they are doing something for this
Okay,
students.
okay. And anyone has any other opinion? Okay, so not adhering to, and this is not right. How many of you think, and you could just bounce your answers, how many of you think the cook is the teacher? No, the cook is the teacher? No? so, so any opposing? Yes, ma'am, you were saying something. Do you have any idea who the cook, any opinion on who the cook can be? Teacher?
Ma'am, customer is a teacher. No.
Okay. 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 So we had a lot of differing opinions. Now, sometimes there can't be any right or wrong answer, but Paul Black has the right answer. Like for him, there is a clear cut division. So, according to Paul Black, the cook is the teacher, the soup is the student, and the customer is your assessment or the final result or the society at large. So the idea of formative assessment is, and this just brings us back to the importance of formative assessment, that when the cook is cooking the soup, students, if something is missing, can be added. If something is extra, that can be taken away. But once it goes to the customer, nothing can be done. If the customer likes it, it's a hit. Doesn't like it, sends it back. So once it reaches the summative assessment stage, nothing can be done. That is why formative assessment is very important, because as we are going through the stages, we can make the necessary changes that's required in the teaching and learning process. So in language learning, what we are doing, we are constantly looking at formative assessment. Formative assessment is embedded in the learner book. That is why we start with a getting started activity. We harp on the prior knowledge of the student, and then we build up on that knowledge effectively. Right? So we'll get the break, and then we have a little bit of an activity. So after break, okay, so we are coming back at 11:20, and then we'll have an activity around the learner book as well.